Again. This is a little aside from the. See, this whole karmic management workshop came again, I said, from the business side of things, right? So, depending on who showed up, I was going to keep it very corporate, but then you're all yogis and meditators, so I'm kind of off roading here. But when you understand the true causes of things, one of the more fun ways to apply it is to relationships, to personal relationships, to intimate relationships, and to know that traditionally you're looking for Mr. Right or Miss Right, and you're looking for someone out there to make you happy, right? Like, isn't that usually the big beef? Is that okay? We can't see each other anymore because you make me so unhappy. It's like that actually isn't possible. It actually is impossible for anyone to make you happy or unhappy. Um, the only controlling factor in that is you. And now, does that mean you stay in an abusive relationship? No. Does that mean that if you're seeing someone function in a way that isn't ethical? No. Like, you don't. It doesn't mean you just take everything because, oh my God, I created it. But you understand where the true causes are, so that you can change it, so that you can do something about it. And the best thing, so I'm off-roading into spiritual partnerships here, but the one thing that Geshe-la teaches is that, you know how you uh, hear the phrase, honey, we have to talk? And it usually sends like a shiver up your spine, like, oh, what did I do now, right? Or oh no, and it's like he says, what you say to your partner is, okay, honey, we really have to talk about our relationship. What can I do for you? Like, really, what can I do for you? Because we don't think about it that way, And again, it's not in this particular presentation, but it is about karma. So I'll tell you another little story. He talks about, and this is a cause and effect thing, and it has a bit of math. So whenever you give something, actually, he does teach it in the context of this. He teaches it in the context. The other thing I'm going to hand out tomorrow are stories from Geshe-la. He was starting to write a karmic management book, which is different from the actual book that got published, but because there is a karmic management book that got published, which is excellent, by the way. But I have a document from the first time these courses were taught at Diamond Mountain, and it used to be called the Enlightened Business Institute, not the Karmic Management, not the Diamond Cutter Institute. And I have the beginning of what was going to be a karmic management book, told more in the line of a story, just like the How Yoga Works book is a sweet little story about a little girl and her dog in ancient India, and it really is telling us the whole Yoga Sutra. But because Geshe-la has two streams of books. One is very technical and practical and corporate, and the other is told in storytelling, almost like a fairy tale or a parable or stuff. So anyways, I have these karmic management stories that he started that I'll bring tomorrow. And why am I telling you this? Because of the money thing, right? Because I was going to tell you the ice cream story. I'll tell you both. So anything you want. Remember I said earlier, anything that you want, either give it away or make sure, not give it away, make sure somebody else gets what you want, or at least share it, right? So in the business context, he talks about from his days in the diamond business, there was an incident where an order of diamonds came through, and through some clerical error on the supplier side, they ended up with $25,000 worth of more than they had paid for. And it was like the invoices and everything were like, it could have been a really sweet gift, right? Like an extra $25,000 was in their pocket if they just didn't say anything, right? And it was completely like, from the other side, it was like the paperwork looked all kosher, like it wasn't, it wasn't a theft thing, it was just a clerical error. But he teaches it as the right thing to do. And the right thing to do, which is what they did, was they called the supplier, pointed out the error, returned the $25,000 worth of stuff. And he gave that as a teaching of, some people would say, you should have just kept it because it wasn't anybody's loss and nobody would know and you were up 25. But he said, in the moment, is it $25,000 in my hand, which was not through honest means or through, right? Like when you know that you don't deserve it, then it's a form of theft, right? And theft will only lead to scarcity in the future. By giving the 25 back, he's not getting the 25, but it will guarantee that he gets 250,000 later because the math is times 10. So in terms of ice cream cones, he was telling a story about how he really, really, really loves chocolate ice cream. And his partner really loved strawberry sherbet. And if you like thick, creamy chocolate ice cream, sherbet, but knowing the karmic math, he would always make sure that the choice was sherbet because it would ensure 10 chocolate-covered cones later. Yeah. So like that. I haven't done the clinical trial on that. I can't tell you that the number is actually 10, but I can tell you that the sharing or the giving actually does come back. Now it might not come back. It may not come back in the form, like it may not be $1 million, okay? But it will come back in the form of, like Zoe, the opportunity just being handed to you where you didn't have to struggle for it, or it may come to you as a space opening up that you don't have to pay for, or it may come to you as, you know what I mean, like something that you would be out of pocket for, or something that would normally be more difficult for you will come easily. Like the abundance you will be looked after, and those are the types of returns that come. So
maybe my son, that's why he finds $40, $10 all the time on the streets.
All the time, right?
$40. But he always says, now because he comes to the classes, he goes, that must be the $2 I gave to my friend.
He's not wrong, and doing it with intention. So here's I'll give you another secret about karma, about seed planting, is that intention makes all the difference. So when you first hear about this stuff, you may think, oh God, like I've planted seeds left, right, and center that are horrible that I had no idea. Like, am I doomed, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like seeds not planted with intention, yes, and a bad thing will lead to a bad thing, but it won't be as bad as if you purposely do a bad thing with full intention and you see it through and you're happy you did it and you would do it again, But that might give you
Why'd you look at me?
But the same can be said for a good thing. So now that when you do a good thing, like give $2 to a friend, you do it with the intention of, okay, this is an investment in my future abundance. You don't have to tell the person that. This is the thought process, right? Like, it's like, I am doing this so that I will have my needs met, that I will have what I need when I need it, I remember once early in my practice with this, especially in Vancouver, especially like on certain parts of Vancouver, you can come across a lot of people panhandling, right? And it's kind of easy to walk by them. And I'm not saying you have to give money to every single panhandler. I'm not saying that. However, I'm just going to tell you what happened to me. Once I figured this out, I thought, well, actually that's an easy way to give, right? Like, because this person is on my corner every week. So why don't I give a toonie or a loonie with this intention, and that'll be my practice, right? The minute I decided that, do you think I could find the guy?
Weird.
Not there, okay? Weird. Yeah. So it's it doesn't mean I don't have opportunities to give, but it's interesting how. So where was he coming from, really? He was coming from my scarcity mentality that was not wanting to give, right? And then when I had actually made that realization, I couldn't find him.
See, this is where I get a little confused because for me, it's like being generous of heart, and that is like the purest intention is truly like humility, like just to be of service to another human. So when I hear this, it really bothers me. Like I have grown up like my father is like generous to a fault, and like I've inherited that, and like not to a fault, I don't feel, but and I hear like that's like the tiny bit of karma that just makes me go like, ugh, like I'll just do it my way, because that I'm gonna plant the seed so that I can ensure this for myself, to me doesn't feel right.
And actually, you know what? I had the same reaction early on.
Yeah.
And that is actually an honest reaction of someone truly trying to understand this.
Yeah.
Because it feels selfish, doesn't it? It
Well,
feels
it doesn't feel pure in intent at all.
Right.
Because it's like I'm not doing it for that reason.
Right.
And I wouldn't do it for that reason.
Right.
So why is that a part of the equation?
It's not even that it's part of the equation. It's just telling you the real causes of things.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. It's what the Dalai Lama calls enlightened self-interest. Is that if you do it with awareness and attention, no, not like I'm going to give this to you because I want this back, but knowing that if I'm doing this to make it all better, like to make everything all better for everybody, and not just giving it just because it's a random thought, or because you're doing it out of habit, like you're doing it without thinking about why you're doing it, just because your dad told you to, like it's and I'm not saying that's why you give, but there are some people who do just because mom told them to, or school told them to, or whatever. And if you're doing it with a lack of awareness, the giving will still come back to you, but it will be hit and miss. It will be what they call, that's the mixed karma that I was talking about. But if you do it with the intention, not even the intention, just the wisdom, knowing that the seed for abundance is generosity, just that alone, you don't have to think, okay, I'm giving you a toonie so I get $20 back. It's not that type of an exchange. But for people who are less open-hearted, for people who don't understand the cause and effect, sometimes it's just useful to give them the math, because it actually does work that way. But regardless of how it works, the intention does matter. So if it's feeling, because here's the thing, it's feeling impure, so what, you're not going to give the money anymore? It's like, that's not an answer either, right? So it's, the whole enlightened self-interest bit is that when you truly understand the causes for results and the results from causes, the whole selfishness is removed from the equation. Because the reason you're giving is not so that you can get, but that both of you can get. You're giving so that you're raising the bar for everybody. And it's not oh, I'm so noble, I'm giving, or you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's the way it is with you either, but it can be with some people. They give because they think it'll make them look good, or they, or they feel guilty about something, so they, it's like, and those are not the right motivations to give. Like, you are actually giving because it is going to ensure abundance. And the reason is, now that person they're getting because they were generous before, you know what I mean? It's like, so it's almost like paying it forward. So, but it is important to get clear, because if you have that little bit of hesitation or doubt, it can actually taint the purity of what was there to begin with. So not saying that the intention isn't pure, but for example, actually, one of my friends really did have an issue with giving to homeless people because she thought they were going to use the money for drugs, and that she just didn't want to see that. So she was giving McDonald's coupons so that they could, because her logic was they can get something to eat, they can use the bathroom, they can get shelter for a little bit of, so her intentions were noble. And it's interesting because I had the honor of knowing meeting she's actually just recently retired, but the government, what's her name? She works in the downtown Lower East Side, and her portfolio was the homeless. And I just saw her on the news recently because she is retiring. But she has spent her whole life looking after the homeless from a government side of things, like making sure there's shelters, making sure there's whatever. And I remember asking her once, like, because drugs are a big problem on the streets, right? And I said, is it useful to give someone like that a $5 McDonald's coupon instead of a toonie? And she said it actually isn't, because you need to give them what they need. And you're not giving them the drugs, but you're giving them, what was it that she said to me? She said that by giving them the McDonald's coupon, it was a judgment. It was a judgment on our part, saying what you could or couldn't do. And what they would do, they just wanted the money. So if they would either sell the ticket if they could, or they would go steal and throw the ticket away. So if you were instead giving them the toonie, they wouldn't then go steal. So there was, I'm getting into a little bit of detail that is besides the point, but the point is the intention. The point is the attitude with which we do these things. And the other point too, actually you bring it up, is that we can't judge. Like, we don't know who
It's
that...
attachment to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, all this, I'll give you this, but only because this is what you can handle.
Yeah. And but not only that, we don't know who that being is.
Yeah.
They might just be there to teach us a lesson, you know, and it's our minds that is throwing up the overlay that you're whatever, right? So, and it's really hard not to judge. But it is actually, what you're feeling is an honest reaction when people first hear this, because it does sound a little bit like either double dipping or it sounds a little self-serving. But yeah, His Holiness does say, you know, it's enlightened self-interest. You have to understand the power of cause and effect and maximize. So you can know that it is your intention, and it's actually it's actually giving with awareness is the most important thing, as opposed to just doing something unconsciously or just because everybody else is doing it, or, you know, for reasons, because we can be really, really convenient about what we think is pure for ourselves. We can convince ourselves that we're doing things for pure reasons, when if we really dissected it, you know, like, is it really, right? So anyways, the bottom line being that the intention helps add the fertilizer and helps add the, you know, the nutrients to make a seed grow stronger. Doesn't mean that by planting remember what I said about planting the seed in concrete or throwing it onto concrete? Like, it can still find its way through the cracks and sprout, but it won't be as strong, right, without the proper. So the whole attitude thing, the whole intention makes it stronger. But again, yeah, no, if you're going and doing something just because of what you're going to get out of it, that's no different than keeping the $25,000, right? So it is it's an enlightened self-interest. It's giving with the full knowledge that the giving with pure generosity is going to bring you abundance. You're not doing it because you want this, just because you want this, because then it's not, your intention isn't a pure intention, right? But if you're doing with a pure intention, you are absolutely guaranteed the abundance back.
I guess I just feel like, I know I don't really grasp the whole concept completely, but I just feel like even that undermines something to me, but I think that that's just sometimes like a place that we come from. Like,
it is. And it's a place where we have to do the work, actually. And the other thing, Maitreya said this, is that when you hear teachings like this, it's going to sound a little, not everything, and I'm not asking you to buy anything, I say. I'm basically saying go test it out for yourself, you know? But they do say that, because what I am telling you isn't something I've made up. It's stuff that goes right back to the diamond cutter and to all of that. So when you hear stuff that you're like, I'm not sure, they say put it on the shelf. Like, don't judge it right or wrong, or just, diss it. Put it on the shelf and go test it out for yourself. And really, the thing I want you to take away is that it is the intention. So if your intention is pure, then you're miles ahead of everybody who's trying to figure it out anyways. Okay?
So the woman that was giving the McDonald's coupons had judgment. So is she incurring, like,
she's had ups and
good
downs,
effects?
ups and downs,
Or
ups and downs. But
mixed?
general
Oh, that's where the
mixed,
mixed
yeah,
comes in.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she's so generous, anyways. So for
Yeah.
the most part, she's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was, and again, her intentions were noble. Like she
Yeah.
was thinking she was helping. So, intention has a lot to do with the power of a seed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And does karma transcend lifetimes? So am I encouraged? So yeah.
And that's the time gap. Is that
Yeah,
you?
so you don't know that time gap.
And that actually is what explains how bad things happen to good people, and how good things seem to happen to bad people. It's because it does transcend lifetimes. So here's the laws of karma. Karma is definite in the sense of good leads to good, bad leads to bad. If you plant the seed, it must ripen. If you don't plant the seed, you can't expect the ripening to happen. It's like if you've actually not been generous and you're wondering why you're flat broke, you know what I mean? It's like you can't plant a watermelon seed and expect you're going to get a pineapple. Like, it's just not going to happen. So, did I cover all four? No. So it's, which one did I miss? It grows, yes. Well, which is the one I told you at the beginning of class. Like a little acorn grows into 1,000-ton or 1,000-pound tree, right? So karma does grow. And so if whatever you're facing is, well, actually, not if. Whatever it is that you're dealing with, be it the irritating person, or be it scarcity, or be it a health issue, or whatever, know that whatever is happening in your life is the oak tree. And the cause, which may have been at a time that you can't remember, was an acorn. But the more time that passes, the bigger the result. So that's why also in the Buddhist philosophies, they teach what they call the 4 forces of purification. And it's just, again, this comes from Lord Buddha, and it's guidelines for how to diminish the power of the negative seeds, because we don't know how many deep pockets of negative seeds we have. We can only tell by what's ripening for us. If you're ever irritated, if you're ever unhappy, that's a negative ripening. So, we don't know where that came from necessarily. And so there are things that you can practice that will help mitigate it. But one of the biggest things is to refrain from doing the cause that brought that to you to begin with, and to antidote it. Buddhists can be criticized for having the 4 powers, because it's sort of like, you confess and that's it. But it's not it. In the Buddhist confession, you also have to promise not to do it for a certain amount of time, or you have to restrain yourself, and you have to come up with an antidote, with something that will plant a good seed for you. And they say one of the best ways to do that is to rejoice. So my teachers say, is it the Catholic churches that have confessionals, or are there more churches than that have confessionals? Catholic Church? Okay. So they have it half right. Confessionals are good, but they should have rejoicinals too. So that, you go and you confess stuff, but then you also go and you really rejoice for things that you've done well. This is the way to perpetuate the good stuff. It's kind of like counting your blessings, but it's really, really getting super stoked, super happy about the good things in your life, or the things that you want to replant. And a sort of a sibling of rejoicing is gratitude. So gratitude and rejoicing are really good ways to keep multiplying or planting the good seeds, and then confessing, like regretting something that you know is going to bring you a bad result, and really working hard to restrain yourself from repeating that thought, word, or deed. And then if you can think of an antidote, and this is where, like, the whole giving will bring you generosity, those types of correlations are useful to know, because if the thing that is your problem is stinginess and you're always facing scarcity, then you know that by purposely, intentionally being more generous in even your time, or like there's ways to be generous that you can actively put into place that will counteract the negative thing that is in your life right now, if that happens to be the negative thing that's in your life right now. So that's where really, more so than the give to get thing, is useful. It's got to be useful, or why do it, right? And we have a lot of information because different things are useful to different people. And it's a matter of, at the very core though, understanding that we're all gardening. We plant seeds all the time, 24/7, even when nobody else is looking, because, you know, the karma cam is you, right? It's your mind. So we're planting seeds constantly, and it's in the nexus of potentiality, of this blank screen of pure potential. So when you are aware of that, then you're armed with the tools to walk through that more better. That's a good word. Yeah. Yeah, they say also, yeah, whatever you want, make sure, like, help someone else get it, or at least share it. Whatever you don't want, make sure you're not doing it to somebody else, or, you know, and at the very, if you can't think of anything else, just try to be kind. You know, like, how kind have I been today to someone else? How kind have I been to myself? Because often you're not even kind to yourself, right? So you have to put the oxygen mask on you before you can help someone else in an airplane going down, right? So it's like that. You have to so it's a matter of hearing these types of unusual concepts, struggling with them, contemplating them, doing your yoga. And if you are able to come back to the workshop tomorrow, we'll be handing out actual practical exercises that we can do, and I've got a template for the book, and also this little karmic survey is interesting, because then it actually gives you some facts, you know, that you can work with. They also say with these correlations, because it is only 46, and apparently we have 84,000 mental afflictions. Yogis have done the math on that too. But the 84,000 are all somewhat related to the top 10. So if you can get the big guns, you will automatically be dealing with all of these other ones. And they say that you can do concentric circles too. Like, maybe the correlation, because the ones I'm going to be giving you tomorrow are in a business context. So they'll talk about coworkers and equipment and office plans and stuff like that. But you can just transfer the vocabulary to whatever is specific in your environment. You can do the concentric circles of how, so maybe you don't have coworkers, maybe you have students, maybe you have colleagues, maybe you have, you know, whatever your situation happens to be. Maybe you don't deal with equipment, maybe you deal with, I don't know, you can fill in the blanks, you know, in terms of the actual data, but the experience for the correlations are going to touch upon things that will be relevant. You know, like, where is it that you're getting cooperation or not? Where is it that things are coming to you easily or not? Where is it that you're facing obstacles? Where is it that you're facing challenges? Where is it that plans that you try to see through fall through, or, you know, like that? They're all potentially relevant to things outside of the business paradigm if you don't happen to work in an office, or so it's don't think that it's not applicable, even though it's sounding very corporate sometimes. Okay, any other questions?
Okay, so not to belabor this, but Zoe's question I might be sort of misreading a little too, but I think this is something that's still really bothering me, and what you're talking about, right, Zoe, is the difference between if you're giving with the like any of the impure motivations we're talking about, but if you're giving with the intention of making someone happy without any thought to yourself because you love them, just pure you want this being to be happy, it's bringing it a step down, isn't it, to then put in a little bit about yourself. Isn't it the very highest intention to want for someone else without any thought to yourself, not just spontaneously to want
Yes.
their happiness that much?
Yeah.
So is that what you mean? Like the difference between that type of giving versus
I'm giving because I want something back.
So it
Yep.
isn't so.
But what I'm saying is just know that by that highest type of giving, you are guaranteed everything back.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it plants the seeds
Yeah.
for a totally different type of
Yeah.
ripening, which is
No,
extraordinary.
perhaps for
So,
some
okay.
for some reason can eliminate that ill will when they understand why some people have money and some they don't have money.
Right.
Sometimes people go like, oh, those people always have money and they always get, and those people are so bad, but look how rich he is. We hear it all the time. That where I come from, there is a very good saying, people put it literally in front of their doors, like, don't wish ill will, work it and will come to you still, or something like that. And literally people have it in their businesses all the time in front.
Mhm,
So don't
mhm.
wish ill will. But sometimes, like my son, he wouldn't probably, I think that he wouldn't exactly make the understanding, but it eliminates him, it gives him the reason to be generous with a certain thought, because and not feeling like when his friends have money, instead going like, oh, they always have money, he's trying to navigate towards not feeling that they have too much money and being envy or jealous about it, but trying to plant the seed so he can have money. I can see how he starts thinking sometimes.
Connecting the dots, yeah.
I can think that some people are in that level, that their generosity starts from very little and they shift from here and they come more like inwards.
Mhm,
So
mhm,
instead of being outwards all the time.
mhm.
But if you're already at the level where you're just giving,
But
if
then
you're
you're
not
attached to
the
the
higher-
you're attached to a hierarchy of like what is better, right? And then that gets lost too, in a way.
I think, Zoe, you hit upon it earlier. The attachment is part of the problem at any step.
Yeah.
And you could be as attached to your Dharma practice as anything. There's a fabulous book out there by an amazing Tibetan Lama who's passed now, named Chogyam Trungpa, and it's called Spiritual Materialism. And it's fascinating because we can be as materialistic about spiritual knowledge, and we can collect teachings, we can collect teachers, we can collect, all of the books and all of the different things, and really all we're doing is doing that instead of buying shoes, So it's not, and it can actually be more dangerous to be a consumer of spirituality if you're not actually learning. Remember I said, if you take away all the dogma, if you take away, it doesn't matter. I don't care if you follow the Buddhist philosophy or the Hebrew or the Christian or whatever, like whatever it is that is bringing the highest sense of compassion and kindness and understanding that what goes around does come around to you. Whatever delivery system works for you is the highest truth, but in any of it, it's good to whatever rings true for you, test it out, check it out. And the one thing I love about this philosophy is that it does actually give you things that are at a certain level measurable, in the sense of you can try this out, you can track this for a while. If there's no difference in your life at all and you've given it a sincere effort, don't waste your time. Like, don't. Why would you? But if you do try it out, like my friend in the construction business who did try it out and had very noticeable, trackable changes, then you keep going, you know? So it's like that. And the reason there's so many different teachers and so many different teachings is because we're all different. But at the end of the day, if you just remember that, and it's an inside-out thing, I love it. The world comes from inside. It comes from you. Whatever is coming to you is actually coming from you and not at you. If we can even just try to remember that, you will be miles ahead of this spin cycle of suffering that most of us are caught up in, you know, at any given time. Yeah. Any other questions? You're looking confused.
Well, I have a question, but I don't know how to. I haven't
Frame it?
formulated it into words yet.
Are you coming back tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay, ask me tomorrow.
Well, it has to do with what we were just talking about the generosity, like what. I don't know if I'm like the way that I had the same trouble, but then something happened where I assumed, actually, I don't think that I backed this up with any like data, but I assumed that even though I was being generous a lot of the time, I was also being like stingy, and I was, you know, craving other people, wanting what other people have, and I also like said crappy things about people behind their back, and you know, I was doing all kinds of other things. And I don't know if that like mitigates
the good that you were doing,
good or what,
Yep.
or does it just it does?
It does. Well, the
So-
good that you were doing and being
You said it
generous,
guarantees. You
the
said-
good that you were doing absolutely guarantees abundance. But the level of abundance that you experience, when I say mitigate, is like if you were talking trash, the guaranteed reaction is low self-esteem. So if you have low self-esteem, but you have all your needs met, are you going to be happy? You know, I mean, at the end of the day, it's about the universal equalizer is we all want to be happy and we all don't want to suffer. And like even the most hardened criminal wants to be happy and doesn't want to suffer. Like the actual details of what we classify as what will make us happy or not may differ. But the desire to be happy and the desire to be free from suffering is universal, absolutely universal. So it comes down to that, actually. So if you're doing this one really good thing, it will guarantee you a good thing in correlation to that. But if you're doing 10 horrible things, you're going to get 10 horrible reactions. So the one good thing is going to not be, it's going to be, it's going to be, it's going to be one good thing in a batch of 10 bad things. So, you know.
So it works both ways. Like
Yeah.
it multiplies 10 times for the bad and the good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They actually say, and the 10 is, you know, he's being gentle with that. The scriptures actually say that karma doubles every day. So, in a way, they say that's what explains a diagnosis of a fatal illness, for example. Now, we're getting into tricky areas here because I don't want to get into blame or shame or anything like that. But if we're just doing the math, okay, like squishing a bug with malice in like 30 lifetimes ago when you were a bratty little boy or whatever, right, could result in you in this life being diagnosed with terminal cancer. But if you were doing all the other stuff that was going to bring you good things, then you will have the best doctor in the world. Maybe you'll be in a clinical trial that saves your life. Like, you know, there's other things that will come into play, but that karma of squishing the bug 30 lifetimes ago could grow to be so big. They do say that once you get good at karmic management, something that might have resulted in either your death in this life or an illness, you will experience as a headache. Like that. Like, you know, because what you're doing is you're managing the, because you know what cause and effect is. Oh, you know what I didn't actually finish? I was starting to tell you the levels of perception, wasn't I? And I did talk about how we've all had valid perceptions, but never correct ones. And then I kind of off-roaded. Sorry. I meant to also tell you that in the layers of perception, so there's the valid perception, which is just whatever we see under normal conditions. Then they say that there's hidden reality, where you need to have some experiential wisdom before you can actually accept it. And then there is deeply hidden reality, which really we need to go on authoritative sources. And karma, believe it or not, is actually in the realm of deeply, deeply hidden. They say emptiness is, I know, they say emptiness, understanding this concept of the blank screen and the pure potential, that's in the realm of just hidden reality. Because if you start to think about it or practice it, you do realize that the world does come from you. You do realize that, that happiness making isn't in the person in your life, Because they could look exactly the same in day 1 and day 2, and one day you could love them, and the next day they could really bug you, So that level of understanding emptiness is actually what they call deeply hidden. But then the laws of karma, the correlations, are what they call deeply, deeply hidden. So it's it takes a little bit of study and a little bit of guidance to figure those things out. But there are, as I said, there are some general guidelines that deal with the 10 top big ones. And so if you can get rid of your worst obstacle, then everything else sort of falls into place. Okay? All right. Thanks for hanging in there, you guys. And good seed planting, even just for hanging in there and actually listening. I hope it's been a little interesting. You are all welcome back to Yoga in the Morning if you'd like. 9:30. We're going to do the energy clearing, the chakra clearing, and it's actually based on the only known documented female yogi. She lived about 1,000 years ago, and her name was Lady Niguma. And so it's pretty cool. And then in the afternoon, we'll actually get into the nuts and bolts of workshopping our karma. Okay? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.